Hi everyone, good afternoon. Magandang hapon po sa inyong lahat. We're going to start in 5 minutes. Magsisimula po tayo sa 5 minuto. Diaz.
Afternoon, everyone. It is my pleasure to welcome you to the closing ceremony of the Living with Water art exhibition, hosted by the Ateneo de Manila University Environmental Science Department and Arete Sandbox Residency. This exhibition is the culminating activity of the project Multi-Hazards and Resilience in Hyper-Expanding Cities, which aimed to examine how we can learn from each other to build more resilient cities in the face of the increasing frequency and intensity of natural disasters. The artworks showcased in this exhibition, created by Dr. Nicole Manley of the British Geological Survey and other talented artists from the Philippines and the UK, explore the theme of living with water and its implication for cities like Hanoi, Metro Manila, and British cities. As the research coordinator of the School of Science and Engineering, I am thrilled to see this initiative that highlights the importance of interdisciplinary collaboration in addressing complex challenges like building resilience in the face of natural disasters. I am proud to see the School of Science and Engineering, especially the Environmental Science Department, actively engage in important environmental initiatives like this one. I want to extend my heartfelt thanks to everyone who made this exhibition possible, especially Dr. Nicole Manley, who will be giving a talk in a while, and of course, Dr. Eileen de Guzman, and the exhibiting artists, the organizers, and the supporters. I also want to thank all of you for taking the time to visit the exhibit and engage with the artworks. Your presence and participation have made this exhibition a success. Once again, thank you, and I hope you continue to support initiatives like this in the future. Good afternoon.
Yes, and thank you to Dr. Diaz for that welcoming remarks. And before we proceed to Dr. Nicole's talk about finding or creating utopia, I'd like to call on Mr. Jose N. Epetia from Lupon, Tagapamayapa ng Barangay Banaba.
Una po sa lahat, magandang hapon po sa inyong lahat. Maraming salamat din po sa nag-organize ng palatuntunan ito. At maraming pong salamat din sa nag-imbita sa akin na habang ako'y nasa sakyan, nag-uusap kami ni Ma'am Beth na kailangan niya raw ang mga makakasama para matunghayan o makita ang exhibit. Ako po pala si Jose Pecha, nagpapakilala sa inyo. Lupon tagapamayapa ng Barangay Banaba, residing in Montalban, Rizal. So, taga-Kuano ako, taga San Mateo, Rizal. Yung naging partner ko, taga Montalban, kaya doon po ako umuwi. Pinapakilala ko po ang aking mga kasama sa pangunguna po ni Ginang Gloria Simeon, Dominga Porlales, presidente po namin ng HOA, si Gloria Simeon po, si Alice Brinkis, kasama po ang kanyang anak para magkaroon din ng karanasan sa mga event na ganito, si Rosita Castillo. Elikom po namin siya noong nagkaraang halalan ng HOA officer. Si Rosemary Enriquez Rodriguez, Eva Minerva, ang aming pong secretary. Si Evelyn Medina. Sino pa hindi nabanggit? Wala na, nabanggit ng lahat. Okay. Ayan po. nagpapasalamat po kami ng marami sa pag-imbita po dito at natunghayan po namin na exhibit. Bukod po sa naranasan namin sa baha, naipaliwanag po sa amin sa ngayon kung paano nangyayari ang mga baha. So muli, maraming salamat po sa inyong lahat.
Thank you po, Sir Jose. Just to translate it for our GS colleagues, Sir Jose wants to thank us for being invited, and they were able to understand how the flood works here in the metro. They are actually from Montalban, Rizal. It's a province here in the Philippines that's usually being flooded. He is with his colleagues from their town. And before anything else as well, before the talk of Dr. Nicole, I'd like to call on Mr. Riniland Lachica for remarks from their end as well.
Good afternoon, everyone. Magandang hapon po. Ako po si Ryan. My friends call me Ryan. My grandfather named me Rhineland. I don't know, he is beholden to Germany perhaps. But ako po ay isang kawani ng pamahalaan sa ilalim po ng tanggapan ng Pangulo. Kami po ay nagbibigay ng tulong sa mga maralitan tagalunsod. I'm an employee of the government, and we are providing interventions to the urban poor. And these identified sites such as the Baseco compound, the Manggahan floodway, and the Tumana riverbank, they are identified as informal settler areas. Alam niyo po, ang ating Metro Manila ay pinuno po ng informal settlers ng maralitang walang kakayahang makabili ng maayos na lupa na ligtas na paninirahan. According to these informal settlers, before the Typhoon Ondoy, they usually have a safe homes despite the areas identified as danger areas. But because of this uncommon incident, uncommon circumstance, which everybody was caught unaware and unprepared, marami pong namayapa, maraming namatay, lalo na sa Tumana, ganun din po sa nagkalat ang bangkay sa Manggahan floodway, at ang Baseco compound ay nilunod papunta sa dagat ang kanilang mga bahay. Now, bakit po sila, despite the danger posed by the area, why do they continue to live in those places? Because they have nowhere else to go. They have no choice. Now, after Ondoy, we have this Oplan Likas where we resettled those families from the waterways to some parts of suburban areas. Unfortunately, wala pong masyadong living opportunities sa resettlement sites. So, those resettled communities, they went back to these places. Sabi nila, we'd rather risk our lives dito sa city na alam naming peligro kaysa na may chance pa kaming mabuhay dahil may pinagkakakitaan kami, rather than stay in the mountain na mamamatay kami sa gutom. Ano po? Now, uh, talking to them about their experiences sa bagyong yon, you can just imagine yung I was talking to somebody na all of the family earnings, savings were washed out, and what was left of them ay yung the clothes that they wear. And the worst thing is the entire family was gone too. So, iyak na lang siya ng iyak. Hindi niya maiwasang umiyak. So, I have to stop the camera. Kasi masyado nang painful ang kanyang recall. Similarly, in Mangahan Floodway, the mother was working in the canteen. Then, all of a sudden, hindi na siya makauwi. Ang bahay nila hindi na mapuntahan dahil sa taas ng baha. So when she left her working area, dead bodies are scattered along the road. So you can just imagine the trauma of these people. Now, yung experience na yon is something na hindi mo malimutan. It's a trauma. Listening to the story is a trauma in itself. What are we doing? What am I doing? Personally, as a government employee, one of my tasks today is to help resettle the informal settlers along the railways because of this commuter railway project. Now, one of the questions that we keep on asking is the resettlement site resilient to whatever natural disaster may come? And if those families move to this resettlement site, can they live decently with opportunities to earn a decent living? So these are the challenges that we are facing now in our engagements with the informal settlers. Much as we want to help them provide alleviations or interventions to alleviate their economic status, it's a tedious process because sometimes the problem is within the affected families themselves. So it's a transformation, it's total change of mindset that we need for us to achieve that change. Thank you and good afternoon.
Thank you, Sir Ryan. And again, just to translate, he was actually sharing that he's working under the Office of the President that gives help to people who are in need, especially the urban poor. These people are the ones who do not have the capacity to buy a house or a safe space for them during the typhoon or floods. And because of such incidents, for example, the typhoon named Ondoy here in the Philippines, it's actually one of the strongest ones that we've had. The Baseco compound that Sir Ryan was mentioning earlier, it was a compound where informal settlers live in, and all of their houses was actually washed away by the typhoon or the flood. And because of the danger in their location and because they don't have nowhere else to go, they were actually resettled to another area, to a mountainous area. But because there's no living conditions or there's no livelihood there, the families still go back to the area that has been flooded, where all their belongings has been washed out. They still want to go back there and risk their lives than staying in the mountain, or they just die of hunger. So they just go back in Baseco Compound or in Mangahan or in Tumana. Tumana River is just actually behind Ateneo. And he was also talking about the experiences of the families that he interviewed before. The first experience or the first interview that he had was the person he was speaking to, all his family savings and earnings was washed away. And the only thing that was left was the clothes that they were wearing during the typhoon. And the sad thing about it is that the rest of his family died as well during the flood. The second one was a mother who was working in a canteen or a restaurant. She wasn't able to go home because of the flood, but when she had a chance to leave, it was actually traumatic because she was walking through dead bodies along the road just to get to her kids or to her family. So these are the experiences during the flood that's unforgettable here in the Philippines. There is also trauma that we can't really help the people that experience the flood. And so for Sir Ryan, as a government employee, his task now is to resettle the urban poor or the informal settlers along the railways or the railroads here in the Philippines. However, resettlement side, the challenges that they are facing right now is the livelihood. So, besides the livelihood as well as the safety of those families. So as much as they want to help those people or those family, it's a very tedious process because the problem is actually not really within the government itself, but the people or the families, because they usually go back to the place where there's danger. So we need total change or transformation of their mindset so that we can achieve the change that we are aiming for those families. All right. So for our next speaker also to share their experiences, I'd like to call on Miss Beth Pua.
Hello, I'm Beth Pua and I'm a fellow of Samdana Institute. Ang Samdana Institute po ay tumutulong sa mga katutubo sa Southeast Asia at may office din po dito sa Philippines. Joining itong project ng Ateneo, it's my first time na ma-expose sa mga urban informal settlers. And doing the interview, I am amazed kung paano nagtutulungan ang mga tao. Malaking bagay yon at ako ay napabilib ni Tatay Jose dahil sa kanya ko narinig yung napakagalak, yung parang tumatalon pa siya sa tuwa at pinakita sa akin ang boots, ang red boots, napakagandang boots na nakatulong at talagang tinetreasure niya yung ayuda na yon na binigay nung panahon ng baha. At pagpunta ko sa ibang mga in-interview ko, yun din pala ang pangangailangan. Maraming nagkakasakit ng alipunga dahil sa baha. At hindi ko naisip yon. Tuwing may baha, ang naisip kong ibigay sa mga nabahaan ay damit, pagkain. Pero ilan lang sa atin ang nakaisip na napaka-importante ng boots. At doon sa isang na-interview ko pa, kahit na binagyo na ngayon, it took them 1 month to 2 months para linisin yung mga mud, yung mga putik na na-cause ng baha. So anong kailangan nila? Mga cleaning materials, mga sabon. Yun ang hindi ko na nakikita. Lumalaki ako at maraming nagbibigay ng ayuda. Hindi ko nakikita yung mga ganyang mga bagay. At siguro para sa mga kababaihan, yung kanilang mga sanitary napkins at saka yung mga underwears. Kasi marami nang nagbibigay ng blouse, marami nagbibigay ng pants, ilan ang nagbibigay ng underwear, di ba? Para magamit ng mga kababaihan ng bra. So, etong natutuwa ako sa nakasama ako dito sa project at marami akong natutunan at doon sa artwork na nakita ko kanina, dinaanan ko yung gallery, no? First walk. Pagkatapos na-appreciate ko siya. Ang ganda kasi first time kong nakita yung ganung klaseng, hindi yung ordinary painting with canvas. Pero nung naglakad ako the second time, yung second gallery walk, na kinikwento na ni Nicole at saka ni Doc Ai, kung ano yung story ng mga artwork, grabe ako na-amaze. ang pinaka-favorite ko yung artwork na sinabi, dito may 100 rivers na nagbibigay ng tubig para sa dam. So, at yung mga maliliit na chips, grabe, parang very original, very innovative, very artwork siya, at saka mafe-feel mo yung buhay ng tubig at buhay nung bawat particles or materials nung nasa artwork. First time ko makakita ng ganong klaseng artwork. At nagpapasalamat ako sa lahat ng involved. Sabi nga ni Nicole, more than 100 people are involved in this project. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Miss Beth. And she was actually just mentioning how grateful she is and appreciative of the exhibit and what she saw in the gallery of Dr. Nicole and other participants. She also realized the importance of the different donations that we are giving, not only the clothes as well as the food, since those are the usual ones that we give out to the families that has been affected by the flood, but as well as, of course, hygiene kits or sanitary kits and cleaning materials, because one of the interviewees that she had back then was shared. It took them a month for their house to be cleaned, so we also have to give importance to those part of the donations. And she also mentioned that during her first walk in the gallery, she appreciated the exhibit since it's not ordinary, and she actually was appalled for the second time she walked around, since there were stories that was being shared by Doc I and Doc Nicole. And one of her favorite was that the story of the 100 rivers that was supplying a dam. And she felt that the small particles or the small things in the exhibit or the artwork are very much alive, as well as innovative and creative. And she's very thankful for all the people involved for the exhibit and gallery. Okay, and to our most awaited talk, I'd like to call on Dr. Nicole Manley to discuss about finding or creating utopia.
Thank you for all the talks from Mum Beth and from Sir Ryan. I'm really pleased that I'm actually speaking after you both to hear your stories, and we're very appreciative that you have actually come all this way to be here. I think I'd like to carry on from the Sir Ryan's point of view of the need of total change of mindset. I think this is very much what perhaps the creative arts could do, or it can do. I think this question about finding and creating utopia, whether utopia really exists or not, is questionable. But perhaps where utopia is actually in a position within ourselves, as in our imaginations. So perhaps it doesn't exist physically, but we can create something near what we think perhaps is something that we desire. And I think this is what came up when we, as a project, came together from 3 different countries as researchers to try and understand what we should be focusing on, in particular with increasing disasters that we have, particularly influenced by human activities. So I'm going to just shift from keeping utopia in mind. I'm going to just talk about the workshop that we had with the Dog Eyes environmental science students who came to do a workshop, which was in the last space, which we ended in. I'm going to talk about this because this was a moment where the repositioning of a mindset is what this exhibition is trying to do. So the activity that the students were given was to think about how they themselves are tributaries. And by tributaries, it means that they themselves are part of the rivers, their own local rivers. The idea or the concept that we gave them to do was that the idea that we as human beings redirect water into our own houses, and we drink and we cook with that water, and then we release it. And that in itself is its own hydrological system. However, how that fits with the natural hydrological system is where we can, well, where we asked the students to think about was how they think themselves in that system. So we asked them to bring a photograph of how they see themselves in this human hydrological system. And they then, with their photograph, they categorize their photographs into things which, into categories which they thought reflected their images. So what they came up with was, well, there were 5 categories, and it was they brought to the surface that how we control rivers, which we dam them or we control them in different ways, and how we don't care about water. And so when they imagined themselves washing or using water, they wondered how that way of using water can be changed. They also thought about how we overuse water, how much water is, we use more water than we have. And that is in everything of making food or well, things like coffee, making fashion, how we make our clothes. And they also thought about how that they themselves are part of the system in terms of we ourselves are made up of water. And how in terms of the way we think is also even how we accumulate our knowledge, in a sense, is a bit like a tributary as well. And so they were using also the river as a metaphor. Now, these things, of course, seem really quite obvious to us. These are things which are which we know that we have in common with among ourselves in how we work or live with water. But the point of this is that although we know all these things, we seem to be concentrating on other things than these important things that we actually all know about. And so when the question of how do we change a mindset is actually, well, how are we positioning ourselves in the way that we think about ourselves in the environment? And so very often the environment and the rivers that we live in are always something that is out there, is outside of us, and that it can be used for the benefit of human beings. But through art, what we can do is that we can reposition ourselves in that system, and rather than thinking of the water being outside of ourselves, we can think of it as being part of ourselves. That may begin to be a way forward to think in a more indigenous way, where we are using our experiences in combination with art, with science and technology that we have, that is existing, but to continue with that, but to be also thinking in a more experiential manner. What are our experiences? What are the things that we do every day? What is the habits that we continue doing that need to change? And begin to really concentrate on those things that we do every day that we forget and we don't notice, and we can use art to remind ourselves of our habits and perhaps how we can change those things. So that's perhaps a beginning of a change towards a total change of mindset, which Sir Ryan has pointed out is necessary. Thank you. And I would just also like to say thank you for everyone that has taken part in the creating the exhibition. I'd like to thank Angelo Galindo, who gave poetry, Shalina Tankiamo, who is a graphic designer who lives in the Philippines. She created an art publication alongside with myself and Angelo, as well as Dr. Aileen Guzman, who has been leading the way for us. If it wasn't for Aileen, we wouldn't be here. And also to thank everyone that took part as well, and two artists that also have done the one, Helen Jackson, who did the basket weaving, and Melanie Shand, who also took photography from Scotland. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Doc Nicole. And I'm just going to translate it in our language. Okay. Sige po. Yung sabi po ni Doc Nicole, yung utopia po, parang yung sinabi lang po ni Sir Ryan kanina na kailangan natin baguhin para magkaroon tayo ng change of heart. Kasi yung utopia naman, hindi siya physically existing, hindi siya nandito, wala siya dito. It's merely an imagination o idea lang yung nakita natin doon. Pero, magagawa natin siya or maaabot natin siya kung meron tayong pagbabago sa puso natin. Sa project natin, dun sa project na nakita natin, kailangan natin intindihin kung ano dapat yung binibigyan natin ng halaga, lalo na sa yung mga ginagawa natin sa nature, lalo sa tubig, kasi yun yung topic natin sa water. So yung sa workshop na binigay ng environmental science or nila Doc ay, yung activity na binigay sa mga students or sa participants po, pinag-isip sila, binigyan sila ng task, and yung task is isipin nila na maging part sila ng sistema or maging isang river sila, yung flow ng river. So yung idea is binigay na i-redirect yung water sa buhay natin. Like for example, sa paggamit natin sa bahay, like ginagamit natin ng tubig para uminom, sa pagluto, sa paghugas ng damit natin, tsaka paggawa ng damit natin. So yun yung mga example na binigay na idea, and yung water kasi nare-release lang siya after natin siyang gamitin. So yung mga students din po dun sa activity natin, pinagdala sila ng picture or ng photo kung saan nagkaroon ng iba't ibang kategorya kung paano nagre-reflect yung mga images po na dinala nila. So, isa sa, dun sa mga ideas po na yun is number one, yung hindi natin pag-alaga sa tubig. Yung inimagine nila yung mga sarili nila kung paano natin maiiba yung paggamit natin sa tubig din. Pangatlo is yung overuse or sa sobrang paggamit natin ng tubig kasi syempre lahat ng basically everyday lives natin gumagamit tayo ng water sa pagligo, sa paggawa ng kape. And yung tayo as mga tao, maging part din ng sistema kasi sa loob ng katawan natin, hindi lang naman dugo ang meron at oxygen, pati tubig din po. So yun yung mga points na or categories na nakuha nila during the sharing nung activity. And the last one is yung makakakuha tayo ng knowledge o ng wisdom na parang stream or like ng river kasi nagfo-flow siya, continuous flowing siya. So yung environment po natin and the where we live in, lagi lang siya nandyan, nagagamit natin siya nagagamit siya ng tao for the benefit of us din. And through art, yung nakita nga natin sa Utopia, yun yung naging way or nagiging way natin para i-reposition yung sarili natin sa art, na i-incorporate natin yung mga sarili natin sa system or sa nature. Kagaya nga rin po ng sinabi din ni Sir Ryan na para ma-improve yung experiences natin and yung way of living natin and isipin natin yung mga ginagawa natin madalas, kailangan natin mabago or baguhin yung perspective natin as tao. And kailangan din natin i-remind, yung art, yung ginawa natin sa Utopia, nire-remind din niya tayo o yung mga sarili natin na kailangan may progress or pagbabago or total change of mindset or heart, sabi nga po ni Sir Ryan. And yun lang po, nagpapasalamat din po si Dr. Nicole sa mga tumulong sa paggawa ng exhibit niya kay Dr. Celine and kay Jello and of course kay Doc Aiden po. Yeah. That's it. All right, and to actually end our program, I'd like to call on Dean Rafael Guerrero for our closing remarks.
On behalf of the School of Science and Engineering, SOSE, and the Ateneo de Manila University, I congratulate everyone involved in the successful implementation of the project, Multi-Hazards and Resilience in Hyper-Expanding Cities. I had the pleasure of viewing the Living with Water exhibit at the Doreen Black Box and applaud the brilliant work of all the artists who contributed to the relevance and creativity on display. Nicole Manley, Angelo Carlo Galindo, Zelina Tanquiamco, Melanie Shand, and Helen Jackson. I've already told Nicole how I'm particularly fond of the mountain and river scene. It is actually a photo collage made up of hundreds of limestone images. The exhibit also reminded me of the universality of rivers and their flooding across cultures and borders. All of us in Quezon City are familiar with the Marikina River and its chronic deluges. At the exhibit, I became acquainted with the dragon and queen of the Red River in Hanoi and the sheep of the Dee River in Aberdeenshire. Apart from the images, there were baskets that told a story of weaving various threads from all over the world to create unity and resilience against floods and other disasters. Bridging cultural divides to achieve social and environmental justice resonates with the Ateneo vision to become a force for good as we try to find better ways of not just living with water, but also living with each other. I thank our valued partners from the British Geological Survey and Queen Margaret University for continuing to work with us in SOSE's mission of advancing excellence and serving our communities. My appreciation is extended to the Ateneo Research Institute of Science and Engineering, the Arete Sandbox Residency, and the Department of Environmental Science for the invaluable contributions to the success of this project. I thank Dr. Ay Guzman for her tireless leadership and her entire team in SOSE for their heroic efforts aimed at environmental sustainability and disaster resilience. SOSE is proud and happy to have been part of this project. We are inspired by the potential for positive change made possible by the intersection of scientific solutions, social impact, and the power of art. Thank you, everyone, and have a great afternoon ahead. Congratulations.
Thank you, Tien, and thank you everyone for being here. And lastly, I'd like to call on Doc Eileen Guzman.
Thank you so much. Akala ko nakatakas na ako. But I'd like to take this opportunity for our British colleagues. Let me speak first in Filipino. Nais ko po magpasalamat po sa community po na dumalo po ngayong hapon na to, sa mga Homeowners Association members po na galing po sa Kasiglahan Village. Maraming salamat po sa pagdalo po ninyo, at higit po sa lahat, salamat po sa pagbabahagi po ninyo ng inyong mga istorya tungkol po sa baha. Pare-parehas po tayo, ako rin po, nakaranas po ako ng unang pagbaha ko po. At mahirap po, mahirap maranasan, mahirap makabawi, at mahirap rin pong alalahanin, masakit po. So, nagpapasalamat rin po ako kay Ate Beth at saka kay Sir Ryan sa mga interviews po na ginawa po nila. Mahigit 30 po ng mga tao po ang in-interview po nila para lang po magkaroon po kami ng inspirasyon bilang mga researchers kung ano po yung pwede po natin gawin, ano yung pwede natin pagtagpi-tagpiin para magkaroon tayo ng magandang kinabukasan. I'd like to thank our colleagues from the British Geological Survey, of course, for trusting the Ateneo de Manila University and the Department of Environmental Science to become part of your team. Dr. Nicole Manley, the rest of the team, Dr. Celine Vicente from Manila Observatory, Jello, Michelle, who really earned her 10-hour of service hours for the back and forth that she had to do getting stickers or whatever else that's needed by the team. I'm thankful to the Arete group who have helped us a lot. It's no feat. It was a wonderful feat that they actually were given only hours to hang everything and to make sure that the exhibit was very nice. So it was a very sophisticated exhibit. It was something that was beyond what we expected when we were just coming up with ideas and throwing Nicole ideas left and right. And then from all of those ideas, hundreds and hundreds of ideas, she had to shift through all of them and give you what you saw today, and of course the last couple of days. So thank you very much, and I'd like to thank Dean Paeng for the continued support that he has provided us and his leadership. Thank you. And thank you to the team of Chris for making this live feed.
Thank you, Doc Ai. And actually, that concludes our event. I'd like to thank everyone for your presence here for this successful event. And now that we have come to an end, again, thank you all for being here, and have a good afternoon.